Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Idalia, I go by Annie. And today I am bringing a video on schools in Mexico. And you guys might hear a little rain in the back. It's thundering and it's looking like we're gonna have a lot of rain these next few days. So we're kind of happy because estaba ya el río secándose. We've been going through a lot of drought. If you watch the news in Mexico, or if you live in a certain state in Mexico, you might be experiencing some of this, especially Monterrey and all that. I had mentioned in one of the posts that it was getting really bad out here with the water. Thank God here in Tamaulipas we don't have that problem, but it was a problem, so we're kind of just all happy. We're not kind of, we're really happy that it rained. So yes, but today I want to bring some info on schools in Mexico. I know that as we approach the following months, you know, a lot of you guys are going to be enrolling your kids in schools, and maybe it's going to be the first time that your kids go to a Mexican school. You might be a little nervous. So I'm going to just try to make it as brief as possible because it's so much information. I could literally make like a whole series on. So basically there's two ways that you can school your children in Mexico: the public system and the private system. So public schools out here are of course different than in the US. Just a little of what you can expect as far as like the buildings and everything else, and the system, and I'll just be explaining a little bit of that. And all public schools are you know, of course, run by the government. And then you have your private schools. As far as la estructura, it is different, like public schools and private schools. A lot of these private schools are pretty much homes or like private owned businesses that they make into schools, and then they get registered with the state so they could be licensed to teach their kids. And by this they would have to get this cédula, some type of cédula, para poder estar pues educando y tener validez ante el estado y ante el pues federal, ¿verdad? Entonces sí es muy importante que chequen si van a meter a sus hijos a un colegio privado, de que en verdad esté validado, o sea, tenga validez con las private schools out here are very expensive. And they promise a whole lot of things, and some of them really do follow through, they come through, and then some don't. I've had my kids in both public and private, and I would say that there's good things to both, and then there's bad things to both, but I probably won't get to all the pros and cons. I could just do that in another video. We're just gonna get to the facts. So now the schedules out here in public schools are AM and PM. They call them turnos matutinos and turnos vespertinos. Turno matutino is in the morning, turno vespertino is in the evening. So our kids don't go 8 hours to school out here. They don't have 8-hour, you know, school days, because there's a lot of kids and there's not enough schools. This is what I was explaining when I first, you know, kind of just, I didn't know the deal and what was it, because I didn't even know what vespertino was. And this is a term that you're gonna hear not just, you know, with any type of public system. You're gonna see turno matutino, vespertino. When you get checked with the EAMS, you have turno matutino y vespertino. When you know, even at work, like the shifts, they're gonna call them matutino and vespertino. So just in case you run into that, that's something you do have to know, because you're gonna be standing there like me, like, what is vespertino? I think I've said this once here before, but it's little stuff like that you really don't know. So they go from like 8 in the morning to I think 12:45. So that's like what, 4 hours, almost, not even 5. And then take away recess time. So they go a very little amount of time to school. And then they have the turno vespertino, which is from 1:30 to I think 5. So it's again the same amount of hours. And they get out kind of early because, you know, some places it gets dark early or during the winter time. So you'll still see, you know, kids leaving the school around maybe at the latest like 5:30 or not even 6. I don't think so, at least here, not here in Nuevo Laredo. And then there's other schools that are like tiempo completo. They had them for a while. I think they took them away and now they're bringing them back. And they're from like 8 in the morning to like 4:30 p.m. And this worked great for parents that had to work, because I personally had my oldest son in one of these because I didn't have anyone to pick him up that early in the day. Because, you know, if you got to go to work, if you're a working parent, you drop them off at 8 and then you got to be there again by 12:45. It's like you can't leave work for that. And if you have, you know, on the younger elementary kids, you know, it can be a problem. So the escuelas de tiempo completo really came in handy. Did they have a lot of activities and stuff like that? No, they didn't. So this is why a lot of parents kind of just really didn't like the idea. Like parents that didn't need to be there, you know, they could be there early to pick up their kids. Because, you know, let me remind you, there's a lot of stay-at-home moms in Mexico. A lot. Like, I would say a lot. I would say more than the U.S. So you have a lot of moms right there, you know, waiting. And then you're going to see a lot of moms at the gates, just there during lunch, during recess, after school, before school. It's like a thing out here. They love hanging out. Why, I don't know, but they love being a part of the schools. They're going to see that a lot too. As far as private schools pretty much have the same schedule from like 8 to maybe 2:30, 3 p.m. So that may be something that you know, consider if you're looking into, you know, if you're going to be a working parent and you don't really know where to enroll them in. Now, private schools do have servicio de estancia. This is like a daycare afterwards, and I've paid up to 2,000 pesos a month just for the daycare, and that's not including the monthly fees. So let's get to the monthly fees. You guys, oh my goodness, this could be a whole video itself, but I'm just gonna keep it short. You do pay a lot of money when it comes to education in Mexico. If it's private, of course. If it's public, you also pay money all year round, and I'm gonna try to explain the differences to that. So let's start with private school first, since I was already mentioning on the cost of private. So they, of course, have a monthly fee, right? And when you first go and enroll, they're gonna give you a list. So the first thing that will be on the list in most, you know, private schools, because I've had my kids in 3 private schools, and I've also taught private schools since forever ago. So I've seen it everywhere, and they all charge for a costo de inscripción, like an enrollment to enroll your kids. And this can go from as little as 2,000 pesos to a lot. You have that, you have your annual fee that you have to pay in some schools. Some you don't, like where I'm at right now, we don't have to pay an annual fee, but there is some schools that will require that annual fee, and that can run up pretty high too. You have to pay a medical fee, you have to pay your monthly fee, which I have not seen colegios, private schools, be any cheaper than 3,000 pesos a month anymore per kid. That's $150. And if you were to just, you know, ya con todo, all the fees and celebrations and everything, it rounds up to about anywhere from like 10 to 15,000 pesos just to get your kid in. That's about $500 or more, including school books, which I just paid 7,000 pesos for the 6th grade for my son, because he's passing on to 6th grade. So that's about 350 American dollars. And then his uniforms, which thank goodness he's gonna use last year's, because that costs a lot of money too. They have 3 sets of uniforms. They have like the sports one, el de gala, and then el de invierno. And this is just one set of each, and you pay another like 12, anywhere from like 12 to 1,400 pesos for each uniform. So if you wanna school, you have more than one kid, you may get some type of discount, but you'll still pay a lot of things for its full price. I don't pay a monthly because I teach, like he's with me in that private school, but I still have to pay everything else, all the other fees. And because private schools, they go all out with, I mean, everything. Their celebrations, as far as like anything with Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's, Mother's Day, Father's Day, like they make everything big. They rent big salones, and they pay for a lot of like entertainment. There's gifts involved. There's like a lot of spoiling going on. So, you know, in order for the schools to have these, you know, events like that, you have to, you know, pay up front, you know, before all of this, you know, throughout the school year. Versus now, public school. You also, public school, of course, is free, and uniforms there are not expensive at all. It can be found anywhere, and because, you know, I guess the government knows the situation with many of, you know, many families, and that they have a lot of kids, or they just really can't be buying like super expensive uniforms. They'll give you that option of, you know, sending your kids with, like, let's say it's a khaki and a plain white shirt. And many times even the gobiernos will give out free uniforms. So with public schools, there's a lot of help, at least from what I've seen in all these years that I've been in Nuevo Laredo. It's like every new administration will come in and they'll, you know, help out with, I mean, of course, the quality is not the best. You know, anything that's free given from the government is kind of just to get you by. But in case you were to be in like a really broke situation, or you wonder how do people do it? How do they send their kids to school? You know, if they have to pay all these things, well, you know, they do get, you know, some help. And then there's also like lunch programs that they have. That, you know, you don't have in private school. Like, you have to pay your full lunch. You know, there's no discount anything, because they automatically know that you have, you know, the means to pay full price. And, you know, out here in public schools, you have a lot of kids, you know, that they don't take lunch, they go hungry. And my husband shared a lot of these stories of when he was, you know, a child, you know, going to school. And, you know, it's just sad that a lot of kids go hungry, and, you know, the schools, they don't feed their kids. You know, if that's a question, if you don't know, if you've never really known about Mexican schools, they don't give out food at all. I mean, at all. And I remember one of the like big like main memories that I have is like probably my first day of school ever, and me walking into a cafeteria full of, you know, apple juice, grape juice, you know, chocolate milk, strawberry milk, white milk, you know, cereal, you know, biscuit or something, like pancakes. Like, you have all these good, you know, meals in American schools. And then I start schooling my kids here, and it's like, dang, you know, they don't even have out of all the schools that I've seen in Mexico all these years, I've never seen a school to have a cafeteria, like an area where they sit down and, you know, they're serving lunch. Like, there's a little, you know, space that there's this lady cooking, or you have people selling tacos outside during like recess or something. But this is why all the moms are always there, because, you know, they take their kids' food and, you know, all these things. Sometimes, you know, you'll run into other situations as well. In public schools, like the rain is really está cayendo bastante agua, ahora sí está tronando bastante. A veces estas escuelas no tienen aire acondicionado, entonces pasan calores. A veces no tienen calefacción, entonces pasan fríos. A veces los baños no funcionan, a veces tienen problemas de agua. And the government really there's no federal funding for these schools. There's supposed to be, like, there is federal funding, but I guess my point is they sustain themselves. They get, like, the parents all pitch in for little things. I remember when my youngest was in kindergarten, and this is in private. I didn't have them. The following year we did private school, but when he was in kindergarten, I remember, and this is in a good area side of town, and you would think, the school would have an AC, right? And they didn't. And I remember he used to come home like tired. And he was little, he really couldn't, say anything. And I remember, when summer was like, ya estaba entrando el verano, the mom started complaining like, hey, it's way too hot. Like, we have to do something. We have to buy, the kids an AC. So we all pitched in money, and the school was able to, buy an AC. So you'll see situations like this, and this is why I think people would rather pay more money to send them to private schools. But honestly, gosh, this is just my very honest opinion. Private schools are way too darn expensive, and that's just the truth. Like, who the heck has all this money? I get a lot of help in the sense that we don't pay a monthly. But when we've had to pay that monthly, man, it's expensive. It's really expensive. Like, most of your money, and I would say still, even paying for his books, not even that long ago, 7,000 pesos, lo que me costó el título a titularme, ¿me entiendes? That's a lot of money. So it's like, who has $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 just to throw out there for your kids' schools? You don't even do that in the US. If you spend money like that, it'll only be like at the beginning of the year when you gotta buy, like, I don't know, stuff for the school year. But man, this is like on a monthly. If you got 2 or 3 kids, that's a lot of money. And it's unfair because, yes, they do get a better education. Yes, they do have more comodidades and stuff. But it shouldn't be, it feels like, dang, it's just not fair. I don't know, it's just not fair. So there is more like descuido en las escuelas públicas. Your kid is probably gonna have to take their water, their toilet paper, because they're not gonna have that. You're gonna see this too, like every week. You're gonna have to pay a certain like a dollar. Like in dollars, it would be like $1, $2 or something a week to the cleaning lady, because they don't hire a janitor. It's like a mom or something. She'll be like, hey, I'll clean the classroom, if y'all pay me a little bit of money a week. So if you're a working parent, again, well, of course you're gonna rather pay, right? They go out there and clean once a week, because it could be like that. If you didn't want to pay, they'll be like, okay, well, if you don't have those 20 or 30 pesos, because I'm telling you, there's people that don't even have that to pay for somebody to go clean. So they'll be like, okay, well, instead of me paying those 20, 30 pesos, I'll just come and clean. So you're gonna see some of that too. They do have festivals and all kinds of stuff too, which you'll probably have to, like I said, it's like all year round, and then they'll ask you for something for homework, cartulina or fomia or whatever. And that's like $1 peso, 2 pesos, and you hit up the papeleria and kind of buy on a daily. But that's how it works out here. Y'all, okay, so let's talk subjects and curriculum. I could go really into depth on this again, because we could just say so much. And I think that there's so much to share and so much that, you should know, or that I would want to know if I've never schooled my kids in Mexico. But I think to kind of just make it short, they do have some of the same subjects. Like the core ones would be, language arts, which would be Español. And they have matemáticas. They are a little more advanced in math than they are in the US. You'll see like geografía, historia, formación cívica y ética. That's like civics. Okay, so formación cívica y ética lo dan aquí desde que están chiquititos. Yo creo que desde primer año. Creo que desde primero y segundo. So they have that subject all the way throughout, I think, till they graduate or something. Or really, I don't know about secundaria, but I think they have that same subject. So I thought that was interesting because es una materia muy bonita. O sea, te forma dentro de la sociedad y siento que maneja muchos valores y cosas así que el mexicano le da mucha importancia, que yo considero que está súper bien. Ahora, el problema que yo diría con las escuelas públicas que manejan el currículum de la SEP, se me pasó a decir eso, manejan los libros de la SEP y todos los libros son exactamente iguales. O sea, en toda la República porque es un programa federal. La SEP programa todo. Ellos programan el calendario escolar y qué es lo que van a ver y van haciendo modificaciones y cambios. Los libros, a ver si se los pongo aquí, los puedes encontrar gratis en línea. You can find them free online if you want to kind of check them out. So I'm going to leave a link down below so you can go in there and check out by grade and you can see kind of what they see. They just have a unique way of, teaching their subjects. One of the things that I've seen that I do not agree with as far as the system here is that they don't do a lot of reading. I mean, I would say they do no reading. There's absolutely no literacy going on at all whatsoever. And I think this is the reason why kids struggle so much to have reading comprehension and, writing. There's no writing going on. Like, they write, like, there's a lot of repetition going on. Oh my goodness, I could say so much about this because I've actually sat down with Spanish teachers and had some really, really interesting topics about this. Just, I think, you know what, I think the new generation of teachers are really trying to bring changes in a lot of these things that they know they're lacking, and that we can, of course, do. There's so much that we can do better. I mean, SEP is just a failed system, period. Straight up. And I'm not even afraid to say it. And I thought that it was just because I was kind of like a foreigner. Like I was taught under a different system, and I was like, well, what is, like, my just very personal opinion, like, I've never been able to work with the SEP books. This is why I've just thrown my kids to a private school, schools, because with private it is different, because like the guidelines are the same. They have to teach the same subjects, but they do it in a very dynamic and different way, and their books are just much better to understand, and they have English like half of the day. So they become, I'm not gonna say native, but they become very comfortable with the language, and some of these kids even start really. I've had kids, I mean, most private schools, I'm not going to say they have this big fluency because they're still in Mexico and they still struggle because it's not like an everyday thing. You don't go out there and you don't practice your English with anybody, but they'll defend themselves. Like, they know, like, if they were to migrate somewhere else, they could definitely, make money with the English that they learned. Versus in public schools, nada de idiomas. And some private schools even have French or German or other ones, other languages. And again, it's just, they get a lot more opportunities than our public school kids. It's a shame because, man, I've had some really, really, I mean, really sharp, really, really, really smart kids that I believe, that are gifted and talented. And I've had 2 kids that are geniuses. One of them is in private school, and I had to work with him differently, which is something else that, man, I'm telling y'all, I feel deep about this because I was actually looking into, if we had a program for gifted and talented in Mexico, and we don't. I think they just created a guideline in 2019 of what to do with kids that were de educación especial porque estaban adelantados, ¿verdad? Eran niños sobredotados, creo que así les llaman. They didn't even know what to do. I mean, it just makes me think, how many Einsteins, how many geniuses have we had in our public school systems that we have not known about? There's not a lot of programs for them to just develop, in different things and areas in which we know that they could really excel in. And then you have other kids that are falling behind, and the public school system, they do have clases de apoyo, and when my kids have needed them, they've been really good about helping them. See, this is one of the advantages of the public school system, that even for like psicólogos, they have counselors, and if they feel like your kid needs more than what they feel like they can give, they'll send you somewhere else, and it'll be free of charge. Because I had a situation happen like that with my oldest son when he was little, and because remember, you guys know that we've been through a lot of changes here and there, so sometimes it was hard for him to adjust, going to American schools and then coming to Mexican schools, because they don't have any program that helps them with their Spanish. Mine never had a problem with this, but I know kids, I've said this before, I know kids that know no Spanish, and they struggle. They do struggle. They struggle with cultural shock. They struggle with a lot of things. This is, again, a whole nother topic of kind of what to expect, when your children start, going to Mexican schools. Kids are pretty friendly. You guys know that by nature Mexicans are just friendly, and they're probably gonna make a lot of friends. You're gonna have some other kids though that are gonna feel a little threatened, and they're gonna think that just because they're American, they automatically think they're better, or they have this idea of people that are coming down. But as long as they get to know your kids, they're gonna come around to understanding that it's not like that, and they can be different, but they can still be friends. So, because my kid, sometimes he'll get that, like, and again, this is one of the reasons why us personally, we don't speak English outside the house, because we feel like some people feel disrespected, and this is just something personal. Like, this is just us. I'm not saying you should do that, and plus, not everybody thinks like that, but I'm just saying some do. So that's just how we go about it. But those are just some of the things that you can as far as sports, you guys, there's some schools that will have mostly just soccer teams. I haven't really seen schools have sports like that. With private schools, you'll have like karate and other ones, taekwondo, que es muy famoso aquí ahorita, no sé por qué, pero mi niño lo lleva. And then they'll switch like the belt or whatever. And there's some that will even have like cheerleading. But as far as like football and volleyball or basketball, there's none of that. And there's not any of that, not in middle school, not in elementary, middle school, or high school. So that's something that you may find a little different. One of the things before I end this video that I thought it was important to mention, so they have the inscripciones. You're gonna see that a lot. Inscripciones abiertas, which is when you enroll your kids in school. They start in February. I don't know why, but I know that like when you're thinking about enrolling your kids or switching schools, you're already thinking about next year or something, which is weird because nobody thinks about next year in February, right? That's just me, but that's how they do it. So you're gonna see that around February, you're gonna see all the schools, private and public, like inscripciones abiertas. And I think it's because, again, we don't have a lot of schools like that, and we have to share schedules and morning and evening and all that sometimes I think they do run out of places. So I think they start as early as February. They start placing their kids where they want them to go the following year, so they don't struggle right when August comes. Our kids are not back in school yet. They're gonna be back at the end of this month, August 29th, if I'm not mistaken. We're gonna go in as teachers a little bit before, but I'll let you guys know how that goes. I just hope that these are some of the things that you consider when schooling your kids out here. And listen, man, if you don't have money for a private school, I could completely get it. I work extra hard for that. That's one of the things that's just a personal choice. But if you have to send your kids to public, because we all have, honestly, there's some really good public schools. There's some really, really good public schools. There's really good teachers in public schools. And they do have more programs. They do have more help. They do have, more access to just anything government. And, if your kid is a good kid and they like school, they're going to thrive and they're going to do good. I've known plenty of adults, people that I work with that have up to a master's degree, and they always went to public schools and they did great, and they know how to read, write, spell perfectly. And it's like, man, look, man, let's keep it real. When you come from the States, it hurts to school your kids in a public school system, because it is so different, and because this, at least, this is the type of I felt that guilt, like, man, why did I have to have, better education than my kids? And that's why I personally have gotten very involved on just, I have not expected, you know what I think now? This is just me. I don't expect the Mexican school system to teach my kids everything. I'm not going to rely on the system. That's on me as a parent. Like, if I know that, the school's lacking with orthografía, with spelling, then I'm going to make sure that my kid is advancing in that area. If I see that they don't read, that's why I'm like always like on their butts, like, hey, read, 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 because that's not what they do in school. And they're not going to do that. And to change the system, it takes a lot. Again, I've spoken to a lot of these Spanish teachers, and one of them recently was like, man, I'm just so sick of la SEP. It's just, there needs to be changes now. And even though I love this current like government and everything, I feel like we need someone new. Like, we need someone that really cares about our kids. It's something that I constantly think about. And every kid that I encounter, and I have the privilege, because I consider it a privilege to teach. I really do. It's one of the most special things that I think God, has ever entrusted me to do. And every time I do get that chance to teach these kids, I really give the best of me, and it should be like that. And anywhere you are, because you don't know if the next person's gonna care enough to make sure that they have these core skills that they're gonna need forever. They're gonna be able to build on that second, third, fourth, and so on. But if they don't have those good fundamentos de lectura, de escritura, I mean, van a batallar, sí van a batallar después. So, si no lo hace la escuela, hazlo tú. Y no te sientas mal si no los puedes mandar a una privada. Like, your kids will be fine, as long as you always stay involved. If you really don't like the program that they're doing, or you really don't understand it, because that's something else. You may have a hard time doing certain homework with them because they're subjects you've never seen before. Stuff like this may happen, and if you feel like you can't get involved in that sense, pay some tutoring until your kids kind of get the idea of and the hang of things. And then throw in some of your own curriculum. There's some really good curriculum online on Amazon. I'm working some American curriculum right now with some students, and they're loving it. And you can do that with your kids, So I'll leave some link down below as well. And I'll probably throw some in here, some of the ones that I'm doing. But anyways, you guys, I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much. If you stayed till the end, this was a really long video, right? Y'all stay blessed, and I hope to see you guys soon on the next video. If you have any questions, let me know down below. And if there's anything that you want to add, some experiences that you've had with schooling your kids out here, then please feel free to do so in the comments down below. You guys have a great week and stay blessed. If your kids are going back to school, feliz regreso a clases. Les deseo lo mejor. Que aprovechen muchísimo su ciclo escolar. Y involúcrense con ellos, de verdad, en lo que les pueda ayudar, pues aquí estamos, ¿verdad? Que Dios les bendiga. Bye.